It's often fun to invite the audience to be part of the conversation that we've just had. It's also interesting to learn some of the impact that some of our representatives that are sitting here have had both personally and professionally, but also have impacted in what is happening and what could be happening and the change that they are associated with and have been touching. I'd like to begin by asking our panelists to open up by saying who they are and give us a 30-second spot on what they do, and then we'll kick off with the questions. So please, Cannon, kick it off.
Hearing everyone's speeches today, you blew me away. It's really incredible watching people's passion. I'm talking to you because your speech definitely affected me, but people's passion when they're mentoring people and realizing that these people would never have a space in a room without someone giving them a voice and giving them a chance. My name's Cannon. I'm from Queens, New York. I went to high school on 16th Street. I was told I'd never be a fashion stylist. I was told give up my career. I wasn't privileged like the other fashion stylists in the industry. I broke down every single door. I just did a huge shoot with Chanel, and getting approved by Chanel and doing a mood board for Chanel was kind of a highlight for me these past 2 years because, as everyone knows, there's hierarchy in every single part of every business that we're in. And to be accepted and welcomed and have your voice heard is amazing. I have some of my mentees here that I really admire, and I think they're all strong, powerful young women who are going to lead the way for the next generation.
Thank you, Cannon. Please, Pamela.
Hi, I'm Pamela Osborne. I'm Vice President of Sales for Americas East for Equinix. But I think that for me, I've always been a lot of different things, always a salesperson, but I've had many experiences over the 38 years I've been working. I've done HR, sales operations, you name it, I did it. And I think that that's one of the things that why I encourage people to just be open to experiences. The more people that you can expose yourself to, the differences, it enriches not only your life, but their lives. I'm also an Air Force brat, so I was sitting here trying to think, like, where was I gonna say I'm from? So I guess I'll say I'm a Jersey girl, because that's where I've spent my adult life. But I think traveling internationally, living internationally, and living in many places across America has given me a greater perspective and allowed me to be more open in my mentoring journey and my acceptance of mentoring from others as well.
Well, I'm Erin Jackson again. I am a Jersey girl as well. And, I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a television writer. Formerly a marketing copywriter, so now I'm back to writing things that I enjoy, which is really nice. But like one of the things that I think is most important in my life is that I'm a graduate of Howard University, and that is obviously, yeah, HU. And so it's really interesting because when we talk about diversity, HBCUs aren't always, you think of, okay, that's a diverse population, but the diversity within our student body was something that really had an impact on me, right? Because every Black person at Howard wasn't from New Jersey. We were from 100 different countries and cultures and backgrounds. And so being exposed to that is just something that has really had a marked effect on my life. So that's who I am. I'm also very Howard University, but yes, so that's me.
Great, thank you for that. And thank you for all of the space that everybody's coming from. I think there's so much overlap and so many interesting aspects of everybody's life that is being impacted by who we're with, the people that layer our lives. And in this space today, you can reflect that by saying, hey, You know, I was there, I did that, and that's who I am today. There's one of the questions I'd like to kick off with is that, you know, bridging the gap of both generations and also bridging that gap with our male counterparts, I think is really, really important. I think the defenses that people put up don't have to be defenses. If I was to ask, and I'm going to throw this, Pamela, maybe I throw it at yourself because you come from a military space. I know that I learned that the military were one of the first places in the US where they had equal pay. And equal pay, you'd think because it's government or because, you know, women can't fight on the front line, you know, but everything was equal in that space. How do you feel about that today? And how do you feel that it's possible to kind of bridge some of those conversations?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say, Muna, is that that is probably a recent phenomena. My father was the first African-American air traffic controller in the Air Force. He was not paid equally. He was not treated equally. He actually stayed in the Air Force because when he came back to America, he couldn't find employment. So I probably come from a much more radical space in that. And I think that I think that it's gotten better, and we are starting to see equality, but at the same time, we are now seeing exclusionary tactics being used in our Air Force where we don't want transgender people to serve any longer. We are now saying that if you have razor bumps, you can be thrown out of the military, which we know many Black men suffer from razor bumps because of the way that our texture and curl of our hair. So I think that there was a time that that was true, but if we don't keep our eyes and our spaces open, we are now seeing much more exclusionary tactics even in our military in the last few months. So where we've made great gains, we are now getting that pulled back. And we have to be very, very conscious of that and very vocal about who is an American and who has the right to serve in our military system. So I think that there is a real challenge that we have ahead, where I would love to say that things are getting progressively better, but we have gotten many setbacks in the last few months, in the last year.
Right. And I have to say that I know that that sounds very doom and gloom, and it is on so many levels. But on the positive of what's going on, I think the very fact that we're aware, right? And I mean, I think the marches that just took place recently, literally nationally across the US, indicate that there is power in having your voice, right? There is power in people working together. And all of it is about making change, and it can be more impactful. And if we don't all step up, to your point, I think, what's it all for, right? Right? And so taking from what Pamela is actually indicating there, I know, Erin, you mean you come from a very male-dominated stand-up comic space, you know. Speak to, obviously, how do you feel that it's possible to kind of merge that generation, a kind of growth and development that we want to take into a positive space?
Well, thank you. There's certainly not equal pay in entertainment. Never. But my friend that's with me here today, Mia Jackson, she is also a stand-up comedian. And so I would say, like, in the last decade, decade plus, I mean, there's definitely been, you know, and that's how everything in life is and in this world, right? There's progress and then there are setbacks. And so, I mean, with new media, there have been so many ways that artists that weren't getting seen through the traditional channels have been able to make names for themselves, right? So that's there. And then people who are tenacious and are creative and have vision are really being able to do things on their own. So that's been fantastic. But of course, you know, your value comes from what people think you can draw, you know, especially just in stand-up. How many tickets can you sell? It doesn't matter that you've been doing this for 25 years, right? You know, and that I'm gonna be funnier than whoever you're gonna book that was on TikTok yesterday, who had people, you know, who's never been on the stage before. But and so definitely there have been leaps, and I think there are ways to make pathways for yourself, and so that's been fantastic. But we're nowhere near parity in entertainment.
And I mean, obviously, I'm not in entertainment, but I can see the where and how this is very, very possible. That there is such a strong divide in, you know, what our male counterparts get and what, you know, we get.
I will say this though, I am not shy about asking my male friends what they got. I do that all the time, and sometimes it takes them aback. But I'm like, tell me. I don't care if it's more. I just need to know. What they have.
Right.
And I do that with my female comedy friends too. You ask me, I'm happy to tell you, you know, because like I need to know what the real budget is.
Right.
Before, you know, like, so I'm definitely not shy about that. I haven't found that most people have a problem telling me that information either. So you know, there are lots of fellas out there that are willing to help us and tell us.
Right.
They do feel like, ugh, you know, when they have to do it, but they do share, so.
But I mean, I think to that point in itself is that there's many, many men out there that know, you know, I don't want to be in this space. You know, we talk about it that we don't want to be in a space, I know, in a space without men. And I know that there's men that don't want to be in a space without women, right? And for all the right reasons. You know, because we want things to be more equal today. We're living in the 21st century. But talking about, you know, the LGBT community and talking about generation gaps and some of the experiences I know that Canon can obviously talk to, I'd love to kind of get your take, Canon, on what you think are things that are changing for the better.
I'm going to bring it down a bit, but then I'll bring it back up. We are in the most divided times, I believe, that our lifetime has ever seen. For many reasons. Bullying against the LGBT community has gone up almost 60%. That's online bullying, in-person bullying. The taking away of people's rights have gone considerably up across the board. What's happening with our migrant community is absolutely, totally heartbreaking. But we all have a voice. We have a strong, powerful voice. Every single person in this room has a voice. You have a really great voice, and you're hysterical. We have to say something. We have to all be aware what's happening and what's going on, and you also have to take care of yourself. It's one of the most important things. I work with an older fashion model, and she said, these times right now are beyond anything we've seen since, she echoes, World War II. And she said, you have to be aware, you also have to be self-aware. How much you put out there, you have to give back to yourself. You have to believe in yourself, and then you have to push it forward when you can. So take the time to put it out there, but don't get burnt out that you can't do it anymore.
Can I just say something, Muna?
Of course.
Being a child of the 60s and 70s, we've come through a period of where civil rights activism was at an all-time high, and we were very vocal. And I was a child, but I would say to you, we have to learn from our history, and we can't be afraid to discuss the tough times and the valleys that we've been in. I was born in 1966. It was not even legal in this country to marry outside of your race until 1967. So you think about that view of the world and how much we now seem to be in polarizing times. We can overcome that, but we have to find paths to find more in common with each other and the ability to go out and fight together to accomplish that, or we're in the process of losing so much that we've gained in 60 years. And And I think sometimes we forget about how close that history is to us. I love that you went back to World War I or World War II, but the 60s is the life I've lived. So I think it's really important to keep that at the forefront, that it has not been that long since we've had all of these rights that we're seeing pulled back. And we have to continue to be vocal and continue to fight and continue to speak up for one another on those accords.
Erin, would you like to add something?
It's something that just popped into my head, just along those same lines. When you think about like the lifetime of people that are still here, and a little bit off topic, but I talked about my dad a little bit. My dad is 79, and he, from junior high on, his family moved to Camden, New Jersey. But when my dad was a kid, he was a sharecropper, right? And I hear people talk about that like it was generations, and for some people it is, right? But my dad picked cotton, right? And so I'm like, I can't get mad when he calls me to ask like a question about his Android, right? Because I'm like, you gotta have grace for the guy who has had all that happen in his lifetime. And seriously, I mean, obviously we don't want it to all be rolled back, the progress that's been made, but it's just amazing to think about all the things that have happened in the short relative period. So yeah, there was a point and I lost it, but what she said.
And I know that we're going to be drawing a close very quickly now, and I'd like to ask a closing question on, we've talked about mentorship and leadership, we've talked about the impact we can all have together and the lives that we can touch. For myself personally, the younger generation are my most passionate and who I have the most passion for and the most grace for. I feel like I've lived my life, and if there's anybody's life that I want to change, it's the young. I think they have the hardest and the roughest deal in town sometimes. And I think often, what they have access to is their worst nightmare, but they don't know how to navigate that. I'd love everybody to kind of throw out there one positive piece that they would feel could impact change and make that more reassuring, comforting, and kind of saying, it's going to be all right. Cannon, over to you. What do you think that is?
There's a school in Harlem called the Wright School, and the first time I spoke to the kids there, I think I have never been as scared to talk to a group of people as with these class of 4th and 5th graders. And you have to change how you talk to them and how you see how they're taking in what you're saying, and you kind of change everything. I feel like that has been one of the most grounding experiences for me, and just watching a lot of these really underprivileged kids just ask you like the most minuscule questions, but some of them have these really deep meanings behind of what they're saying. And I think giving back with mentorship is one of the most important things that anyone can do. And I want to, those of you, if this is your first time at one of Muna's mentorship or her events, I want to applaud you because you're a powerhouse for women and for men.
They're our friends.
And you really bring great people together. And I think this is one of the most important things that you can do. And thank you.
Thank you, Cannon, for that. I do get a massive high on people's journeys and lives. I really, really do. I think because everybody's got one. And Pam, I'd love for you to kind of say something to the question.
I think the power of being able to use your voice in spaces that we're not able to. And I get energized by watching young women and young men, some of who are sitting at this table over here, all of my mentees who are much younger than me. But just the power of being able to say no and understand that that's a full sentence, and the power of seeing folks come into my office who are young people that are like, this isn't right, and who are very empowered to use their voice and speak up for other people. That encourages me every day and continues to make me want to come to work every day and to pour in to people who just want to do the right thing because they think that's the way it should be. And if you can find people in your lives, personally and professionally, that have that energy, hold on to it, use it to push forward, and know that there's positivity and movement that can come out of that.
Thank you for that, Pamela. Please, Erin.
And I mean, I would echo what both of you guys are saying about young people, especially. I taught a after-school program at Bronx Prep, but it was comedy, right? It was teaching 6th and 7th graders how to write jokes in the foundations of comedy. But what they got out of it at the end, a lot of them said, I liked the joke part, but I also liked these are, talking to people that I never met before comedy club that went to my school, and being able to be friends with people I probably wouldn't have talked to without this club, right? And to me, the kids are literally all right because they don't have to just believe what's being fed to them at home, right? Because they can see the world, they have it in their hands. And so they can challenge the things that they hear that don't feel right to them in their spirit. And so I love that for them. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to grow up in this time, just of social media. For me, I probably wouldn't have loved it. But I think that part about it, that part being able to see the world, see what's going on, and form your own opinions outside of, your community and what you learn in your house. I think it's so important. And I think the more that we pour into kids, obviously, mentoring in all stages of life.
Right, thank you. And you're absolutely right. And drawing from Pamela, Erin, Cannon in what they say, I think the future is the young generation. And I think, I believe that they are the ones that are going to impact what happens. But I also believe that we as adults don't fucking load it up on them, and it's not right. I don't agree with everything we do, and then we think, the young are going to come, they'll sort it out. And they're like, what? When did we get dumped with all this stuff that we got to sort out for you? But I think all being said, the conclusion I hope that we're all drawing here is that, it collectively with knowledge and experience, let's all look to play it forward. Whoever you are, whatever you do, whatever noise you make, let's look to impact that next generation with as much positivity that is humanly possible within us. What have we got to lose in making them feel they have the power to do anything that they want to do? So please put it together for our panelists, and thank you all so much.